through tonight life and social skills. Like I said, it's going to be a very general overview. It's going to be practical things that we can take away and use. We're going to discuss trust-based relational intervention and applied behavior analysis. Anybody currently go to a clinic that uses applied behavior analysis with their children? You'll be okay, and you will be what they need. And hopefully you'll leave today with some skills to practice and use. And then the next time y'all come back for more meetings, then we'll get more ideas from the other. Okay, so we all know why the skills are important. Promote independence, reduce frustration, not just for the child, but for caregivers too, and then improve their quality of life. So I want you to think about 1 to 2 target behaviors as we go throughout this that you're going to be focused on. Like, and when we talk about behavior, we're not talking about the ones you want to change or correct, but we're also talking about the behaviors you want to teach, whether it's potty training or for a 16-year-old, whether it's getting the food out of the refrigerator and cleaning up after eating. So behaviors, it's not just bad behaviors. We're going to use a task analysis, but I'm not sure where. So we'll go with the flow. It's not quite ready for that. Okay. Understanding autism through strengths. We all know, just like the Awesome Families Foundation, that all of our kids are awesome in their own ways. And so I want you to think about what your child can do. The top 3 strengths. Think about those in your mind. If you want to share them out, please do, but that's never going to be the expectation through the presentation. And then, what does your child enjoy? And I put this here. It's opposite for those of you in the ABA clinic, but I put it here for a reason, because teachers think coffee first, then teach, right? Coffee, then teach. What does your child enjoy? And then how can we use that to promote positive behaviors for that? That's kind of what we'll be thinking about as we go through. So the core life skills, of course, hygiene, food prep, time and routine, money management, and that's for our older kiddos. All of our high school graduates need money management, so that's kind of a life skill that is very broad right now. Safety, communication as a way to get needs met. How in the room do most of our students use words to communicate? Pictures, words. Okay.
Devices and pictures.
Devices and pictures for you, Miss Tracy? Okay. So, but there's a way to get that need met, right? She said devices and pictures. So that's what we're looking at there. And then visual schedules, and cross-based we're going to talk about in a moment, but visual schedules, it's not just we're going to wake up and we're going to go to the table and eat breakfast, then we're going to play, then we're going to take a nap. Visual schedules can also be a breakdown of a specific task, and that's going to be our skill focus tonight that you're going to take away from here is how to do a task analysis. And so your young kiddos in ABA may not have yet had a task analysis. They have? Okay. So that's good. And that's one thing that we'll take away. But I want you to be thinking about what skill you're going to think through tonight, because you're going to lead with your own task analysis of breaking down the steps so that you're ready to implement it on your own. The goal is to empower you. So taking a shower, microwaving nachos. I don't really eat microwave nachos, but it was cute and it met all the details. You do? Okay. Yeah, that's what so that makes sense. But I love how clear the picture was and how it was simple. There's very few words, but there's words with the pictures. Some of our students will see words and not want to read them, but they can read them. So we put them there and we put the pictures just so that we can say, you know this word, and then the pictures there. So anyway, so the task now, this is also for our older students, what we would call self-monitoring. So the goal, like by the time they get 9, 10, 11, 12, those ages, we're going through it, and we always laminate everything and use expo markers, just to have it there. So they're just simply checking it off. Did you use the restroom? Did you take your clothes? Did you turn off the water? And so they're going through it. You can even use a Velcro piece, move them through the process. When we look at this, typically, like Miss Tracy's students that she works with, this is typically the audience that these types of things go to. But when we think about our friends with ADHD, and if any of you live with an adult with ADHD, or husband, spouse, whoever, think about how helpful it is for them to think through their task just in the morning, just to get everything that they need out of the door and into the vehicle. sometimes an imaginary task analysis is helpful for them. So this isn't just for a certain population. This is for all of us. I have checklists. Think about our to-do list. Those of us who have planners, and we have our little visual checklist that we use every day. So that's really what we're focused on here is the visual schedule. They can be as broad as the whole day. Like today, we're going to wake up, eat breakfast, go to the park, then the, grocery store, then home, then take a nap. That's an overall view of your day. But we can also use that to break down little pieces. And the next is social skills, and then we're going to talk about prompt stating. So social skills is a tough one because it looks so different among our non-neurodivergent peers. Social skills look so different, so we would expect that it's going to be different across our whole population. And so think about the skills that you use daily. Initiating tasks. It's summer, so teachers are not initiating any tasks. When you think about that as a social skill or a life skill, initiation is huge. How are you going to just start the task? For our friends with ADHD, I hear from parents a lot. I say 50 times, go get your shoes on, go get your shoes on. We have to get out the door, go get your shoes on, go get your shoes on. And so, yes, and so it's hard because they're not yet initiating. They're also not responding to the task. And so how do we approach that? We're about to talk about that on the next screen. Boundaries for our older kiddos, that's a hard one that we work on daily. With our students who need that deep proprioceptive input, they're our kiddos who are going to fail and a lot of times we know that that's what they need, but we still think you have to ask because they're ready for that stage of teaching that boundary. Even eating at the table, we have students that will just reach over and grab off the plate. And so one way that you can think about that, especially you get the opportunity to have two kiddos around the same age in your home, which is helpful for them because you can color code things, right? Your things are red, the cup, the plate, the silverware. Yours are blue. And, that's how we're going to keep that separate. You can tape down the table. This is your area. That's a visual boundary that we would then remove once they learn that. But those are skills that we will prompt and fade over time. So having those visuals, we think about parking lots and how helpful it is for us to be able to park in a parking lot that's clearly marked versus one that's not. That's a simulation of what those visuals do for our students. We will literally mark off areas on the floor with blue masking tape. It doesn't hurt anything. It comes up easy. It's cheap, but it gives them a boundary, a visual boundary, and the importance of that is equivalent to us pulling into a parking lot. This one doesn't have lines. That's why I'm using that as an example. I drove all the way past and came back because we depend on those boundaries, and our friends that need those boundaries even more depend on them even more. And so we know how important it is for us. I always think about it in terms of that. I'm a person who is very in tune to sensory needs. I think that's why I'm drawn to help kiddos with sensory needs. That's why I always present in tennis shoes and socks because that's what I'm comfortable in and it meets my sensory needs. But at the same time, it helps us to understand the brain of our sensory needs. Their neurons are not firing exactly like ours are. And sometimes that's a great thing. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I need that piece. And then other times we can use it to say, this is how it feels for them, and this is how I can help support them. So it's all about getting the right. Greetings and communication is usually one of the first ones. How are we going to greet? Responding to name. That's the very basic one, responding to their name. And then greetings and communication, and your family greeting may be different than other family greetings. Like, for example, when little bitties grow up in a family who greets with a hug and a kiss every time that they see somebody, hug and a kiss, hug and a kiss. The first time that they go to preschool, wait, that's not how we greet at preschool. We call that generalizing the skill they have mastered how to greet at home. Hug and a kiss, hug and a kiss, hug and a kiss. Then when we take them to the library and they see other children, hug and a kiss, hug and a kiss. Wait, that's not our family. And so teaching them that is important. At home, hug and kiss. Away from home, home, hug and kiss. Away from home, we keep it very simple. And for our older kiddos, the same thing. At home, hug and kiss. Out, we're going to just fist bump or handshake, whatever it is. High five. We're not going to hug and kiss at school and that kind of stuff. Understanding emotion. And I think this is where I really am so accustomed to adapting and meeting needs of kids and parents, I don't have to stick to this. So, whatever the need is, but understanding emotions and even I was to say, this new and trendy in our society, like on Pinterest, there's lots of things about feelings, and it's starting to be more accepted in the general population, which is great because all of us need to understand our emotions. Get to a video in just a minute called Naming and Taming. But understanding our emotions is what sets the dysregulation to regulation. So those of us who can regulate on our own, our brain gets amped up and we're able to say, wait, these are just parents. They're not going to bite you. You're at a library. Going through my life, what I was doing, it's safe here, right? And I could take deep breaths and I can tell my body, it's okay. We need to get right closer. And then now I'm regulated. Some of us are not yet to that point. And so we get dysregulated and we don't know how to name it. We definitely don't know how to tame it. And then it creates bigger behaviors, bigger responses. It involves more people. And so understanding emotions is a huge part of the social skills that I will focus on tonight because it is the center of regulations. Emotions, this is actually it's a very school to get something like this. But it comes with a book. This is a brand new one I got for this year. These get old. But they each of the dots in the book are associated with an emotion. And so this is just a way, it's called a little spot of feelings. And then you can get the rest of them. Not necessary, but it's just a way to identify feelings. I had some pre-birth. We use engine plates. This is through trust-based relational intervention. We use engine plates, and they can be. This is an older one, like with the feeling, the characters from Inside Out. I'll switch my words for a second. For our older kiddos in the schools, we use this with all of our population, in some areas. And so this is the Inside Out characters, and they have. Also, this was free. By the way, if you pay teachers, it comes like this. So it has the feeling listed under each one. And then this is a really cheap version. That if we have a kid that needs it in front of them, it's not going to cost anything if they eat it or tear it up. So this is just a cheap little plate, and you color it. Yeah, let me get to the picture, and then we'll talk about it more. We're going to come back to that. Okay, so the engine plate, and you can think of it as a car. Sometimes our students aren't ready for this, but if they are, to think about their body and how their engine is running. My engine is running really fast. And so I'm right here. What does that mean? Are you angry? And so our little people aren't going to know to say that. And so we name it for them. You seem frustrated. You seem angry. You seem mad. But our big kids, yes, I'm running because I left our kids up to classes. I left my Chromebook in this class. As soon as I got in there, they were already doing the bell ringer. I got back in the room. They were finished with the bell ringer. Still couldn't find my computer. Got my computer in class, and now I don't even know where I'm supposed to be. And that happens even to our elementary kids. That happens to all of our students, by the way. But it's so fascinating. Yeah, it's like I'm running excited, happy, stuff. Yeah, so yeah, yeah. I said I could relate to our kiddos so well. Green, all good. Blue is like sick, tired, sad, can barely go. Something needs to be changed or regulated when we're not in the green. This picture, because I didn't have the picture of the ones that we've actually made with our students, but you can just take colored construction paper at home and you can cut pictures out of magazines or print pictures from the Google images. Or if you have older kiddos, you can write it. And sometimes when our students are not able to, our children are not able to tell us in a moment. I mean, think about our own selves. Like sometimes I know something's not right. I know I'm feeling some kind of way, but I don't know what it is. That person had children, so I'm assuming they're going to check up. I think they're going to check up. But this picture shows high energy, low energy. Everything's good. We're relaxed, we're peaceful and cozy. Over here, lonely, disappointed, sad, depressed. It's very specific to your kid. And I love this for teenagers too. Like they could put this in their room. And even taking it a step further is how do you feel and what are we going to do about it? So this is a pre-K version, but really, I love this for our students who use pictures. Whenever I found this picture, I love the layout. I've never actually used one that went all the way through I Need with pictures, but I loved it because it not only tells us how our engine is running, and it's just the three for our simple. It also, how's your body feeling and what do you need? The same concept is what we want to teach, especially our adolescents, because when they identify how they feel, now you are responsible for your body, right? When you are on the video games or playing outside and you know your body feeling a little bit dysregulated, what are we going to do about it? What do you need? Do you need water? Do you need rest? Do you need sensory input? I brought the weighted blanket I'm sure y'all are all familiar with. Like, what is it that you need? Because in that moment, we're wanting our adolescent kiddos to start moving more into self-awareness so that they're able to tell us. For our little, we're telling them, come here, you need a hug. Come here, you need some water. Let me wipe your face. We're telling them what they need. But when they get older, we have to make that shift to they're going to tell us what they need through pictures or work. So this is another example. What zone are you in? And it's the same inside out characters. So that's feelings. Does anybody have any questions, comments, input? What if you don't aren't able to imagine like in the lip? It's like you just try. You just don't know what the need is. Yes. And I will tell you in your role if that's very difficult. Are you talking about at school or home? Both. Yeah. So we always start with pictures. Which one are you? What are you? We have some stones that we use. Oh, my favorite. I'll pass it around. This one is my favorite because it's real pictures. Our kids identify with it immediately. And it's pictures of little and big folks. Let's pass that around. So are you gonna get everyone? Okay. So we just use Miss Maggie, we just use whatever we can find. There's one like this. And so we're like, what are you feeling? Which one are you? I see that something isn't quite right. Which one? Or you could say, this one is for a student and it doesn't have all of them on there, but if his strategies were all on here, you could say, which one will help? Anyway, which one will help? And you just start putting, we can make you a menu too of things that are accessible. You would only offer things that are accessible in your home at that moment and in your classroom at that moment. So like if there's no way the first week of school that they can go get water alone, that's not going to be an option. Okay, but then you would just have it. Like, what's going to help? Is it going to be a sensory fidget? Is it going to be, and even like, a lot of times at the beginning of school or when they're transitioning to a new entity. That's why I said I'm a student of the game and y'all are the experts because y'all get to do it whole time and I get to practice and put it into application. But yes, it is trial and error and it's a lot of pointing. What is it that's going to, and sometimes we have to start literally throwing things and seeing what works. So we have the bands. Sometimes it's good, like they'll push against it when they're kicking and push it against their heels. That was me. And so we would, offer something that they can put some tension against. If that's not what they need, weighted blanket, anything out of the norm. Sometimes a novelty tea, like this thing has beads in it, and I don't know why, but it was really catches them off guard because it's not like anything that they've ever seen. But just start checking with them. What is it that's going to draw their interest in the minute that they see their little body relax? And the next time you're going to offer that. Caiden, do you want to come show us how we use the sock? And so immediately kids will either start getting tense and push away or like Caiden, melt. And so the sock is for them to regulate in place, right? You don't walk in the sock. In place. A lot of times we direct them to the calm corner or a bean bag and then put the sock on and they're able to ready to take it off. Thank you for being so there's lots of things that we use and knowing what it's for, that's where you're the expert because sometimes you're like, I think my child may be hungry. And then you present food and then food isn't the answer. The thing that we want to make sure we're not doing is getting frustrated with throwing spaghetti on the wall and seeing what's sick. Because then they're going to match your behavior and their frustration now is coming from what they're feeling. You have to be careful with that. So that behavior or that new skill that you want to teach. Okay. All right. So when you think about the skill, this is why I didn't do it first because I wanted to be able to explain to you. When you think about, let me just use an example for me because there's so many great examples that you all have for kids, but washing the dishes, turn on the water, let it get hot, put the dish soap in. If I were to tell, wait, I've got a better one, bacon and peanut butter and jelly sandwich. When we teach kids how to writing a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, like write about how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, they will leave out steps. When you're teaching your adolescents how to make, I don't have a Sprite.
It told me a minute ago, so can you just get them at a gas station? I'm like, no, I can't.
Yeah. Getting needs met. Think trust-based, relational intervention. They know how to get their needs met. Peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So, taking out the bread, getting out the peanut butter. Do you mix your peanut butter and your jelly together? For our students who are neurodivergent, even our adults, y'all, who are high functioning with ADHD, forget steps. And so we are like, for example, just this Sunday getting in the truck, my husband, like, can you get the coffee cup and my Bible? Well, we got the coffee cup. That's okay. I'll go back in and get the Bible. Thank you for getting the coffee cup. Because so many times our kids get punished for forgetting that one thing. And it's like, instead of recognizing I needed to give one step directions to my child, he wasn't quite ready for two step directions. So book bag and shoes was too much. I needed to just say, go get your book bag and bring it to me. Hold the book bag. Go get your shoes. Bring them to me. Put on your shoes so I can tie your shoes. That's a task analysis of just getting book bag and shoes to the door. That's a struggle. And so how would we make that easier? We would put in some playful engagement. I'm going to count and see how long it takes you to get your shoes. Remember, you're getting your shoes. Shoes to the door. 1, 2, shoes to the door. And you're giving those specific skills, those specific answers, because just hearing over and over, go get your shoes on, go get your shoes on, that's a big task that has lots of little steps that we're leaving out. So the task analysis, of course, the OT have per page.
One thing that helps us, Maggie, is we have to do a lot of visual, and I forget a lot. And I noticed that visual reminders, of course, help me. And so that's something I've implemented with Caiden. His shoes have to always be by the book bag. So every morning when he goes to get shoes on, the book bag's right there. Lunch boxes, everything has to stay there. And it's not easy because the house is a mess because they're all neurodivergent. Mm-hmm. That's something we do. And we know at night, like when it's time to take our nighttime medicine, make sure everything's where it's good. So visual, setting up our environment, I guess, to function, just so it's aesthetic.
Yes, routines, that predictability. The predictability is huge in knowing that. So, the same for me, like that's my school bag and school computer bag and they go together. And so if I bring them in, they only go in one place. And if they're in that one place in the morning, I bring them to school. The one time they weren't in that one place, I left them because it was a routine that I depended on. Those are so important, but so many times, and especially our society today, it's so fast paced that we forget that our kids truly need those skills. And the same reminders that we give ourselves, they need in different ways. They need them in different ways. And so when you're thinking about the task analysis, okay, this is how you would use it. So you're going to put the dates across here. So you get to use it several different days. You're going to go through, can they do it today, tomorrow? Like this is maybe once a week, maybe once every day. When you start it out, it might be twice a day, depending on what it is. And so your steps are here. Okay, I didn't give you all the prompts on this page because I didn't want it to be overwhelming for you. So either they needed prompting or not. So prompting can look like all of these things. It can be a visual prompt, and a visual prompt can be a picture or the actual item. For our high school students, they don't necessarily need the picture of the book bag. They just need the book bag to know that that prompts shoes. If book bag and shoes are by the door, get the book bag, put your shoes on. And so that's where we get to visual. You'll notice that on this side, it goes from least invasive to this is the most invasive. That's full physical prompting where you're hand over hand. You know, sometimes when we're teaching them to use the fork or spoon, we'll hand over hand. Sometimes sometimes with writing, we get hand over hand when they are not quite sure how to hold their pencil or where to write their names. A lot of times we will start with highlighting, and this is your area, so to speak, whenever you want. But we will highlight their name, and then instead of saying trace it, because they may not know what trace means, we show them. We pick up their hand, and we show them trace your name. and they're changing their name. And so that's just a full physical prompt. But going back up to the top, verbal. So this includes direct and indirect verbal prompt. So direct is going to be shoes on. Indirect is go get your shoes. Not quite specific enough, right? But it's still a verbal prompt. Gestural, to the door. Sometimes even our students who can handle the words, sometimes their little sensory brain is in overload or sensory processing. And so the visuals and the gestures are helpful because it kind of stops the stimulation and get it down a notch and knowing when it's time to use gestural, when it's time to use verbal. Modeling. This is huge for our middle school students. And I tell middle school teachers this and those who have that middle age, we expect them to know you have been in school for 6 years. You know how to take out your binder, get out your homework, let's get started. But every single year, it's a different book bag, a different binder, and different homework. When you start school, and I tell middle school teachers this every time I get the opportunity to present, when you start the new school year with your older, and Ms. Tracy, I'm sure you have to go through this with your students as well, right? Every new school year is a new teaching opportunity.
Yeah.
So when you start the year, you have to model it. This is how we're going to come in the afternoon. This is where you're going to put your shoes. This is where you're going to put your book bag. This is how you open your binder. And everybody's stress hormone, the cortisol level, I'll tell you about the hand-brain model in just a moment, stays lower because you're showing. You're not expecting the modeling and you're showing. Partial physical is where you're just going to like push their little arm. Like you have the spoon sitting there and you're like, come on, get your spoon. So you're just going to partially or sometimes shoulder, like, come on, we're leaving, we're going this way. It's partial. You're helping support them along the way. And then we talk about full physical. So let me talk about this. Sometimes on a task analysis or any skill, there's times where we're going to start here. And this is really hard probably for you at the beginning of the year and for our friends who have littles because we want to do everything for them and make sure that they do it right. Let me show you how to put on your shoes. Come on, sit down. And you're doing it for them. And so it's finding that balance between that full physical versus do I start up here with the visual and move down or, and I can't give you the answer without knowing specific cases, but it can work both ways. There are times where we start here and fade. I haven't used that word yet, but we fade out these prompts. So if we start with full physical, we're quickly fading to partial, and then maybe we're going to go straight to gestural. Maybe we go straight to visual, depending on skill and the mastery level of it. Vice versa, the same way. If we start at visual, that's where we're going to stay if they're successful, right? You don't have to use the rest because they're able to, verbal, visual, both of them. If we start there, that's where we're going to stay. We don't have to go down the hierarchy. And this will be on the link, the QR code at the end that you can scan. You'll be able to find the visual for you. It's one of my favorites. You can also Google prompt hierarchy and have all the things. So another one may stand out to you. This is my favorite. But as you go through it, you're marking a plus sign if they did it independently, and then you're marking a P if you had to prompt them. And so it's cool to see the progression as you go across, like brushing teeth. Yesterday I had to prompt toothpaste. Today he or she knew to get toothpaste on. And so that's exciting to go through. Toothbrushing, getting food out, whatever the skill is that you pick to. Physical is P. Full physical is FP, partial physical is PP. Just so you know what you have to prompt with.
That just gives the parent like positive feedback that they're like making progress. You're prompting every time, but it's different prompts. So it gives you a little happy.
Yeah.
I know in ADA, they would make them.
Yeah.
You sat at the table for X amount of minutes, but then required a prompt. Like most students.
Yeah. And at the school level, it's very difficult to get that specific with every kiddo because it is so fast paced. But definitely when
At home,
and at home, yeah, for you to know what, especially in your case where there's two so hands on, that you're able to know. And in your case, you get to practice generalizing it, not just with mom, but also with grandmother. And so that's cool too, because a lot of times we have students that will come in and their parents say they have mastered this, and this, and then they start school. And it's like, well, The good news is they mastered it at home. And the second good news is we have an area to learn it because they haven't yet mastered it at school. And so that's that generalization piece that we work on. And that happens whether it's home to playground, home to library, home to church, you know.
Yeah, I mean, our biggest concern was always safety. So when we first started, he was alone thing a lot. Obviously, it was full physical. Like they didn't start with verbal. We started with this. Let's walk you back to your spine kind of thing. But we definitely saw that. We took a lot of notes to show the progress we was. It took a lot longer.
And that's a real thing. That's not just him. That happens. And that happens with all of our students, y'all. Like, so even our students in elementary who have mastered things at the elementary school in our district, they all come to one middle school. And so even our general ed population, students who have mastered how to be good friends at their elementaries forget it when they come to middle school. So that's a real thing when it comes to skill building. The reason I went back to this slide is because Elise brought up a great point. That's one of the life value skills, safety. And why is that so important? Obviously, she just shared the most important one, which is limping into traffic. And so that's going to be a full physical. We're going to hold until we know that we can master walking without that physical help to get to a place safely. And so that's where the safety comes in. Who do we put the mask on first on the plane? Well, hopefully no one ever has to, but who are we told to put the mask on first? Ourselves, so that we can help those that we love, that are with us. We can't expect our children to go to places we've never been. That's social skill, that's regulation, and that's all the things. So socially, if you've never been excited about going to the movie theater and it's going to dysregulate you, then we can't expect our children to do the same thing and master it even better than we. That's the goal, right? For everybody. I want my child to be better than I would. But at the same time, they can only go with you. And so regulation, if we've never been at a place where we can identify our feelings and regulate ourselves, we can't expect our children to go there either. And that's hard. So two things that your homework is the task analysis and to practice with that. But then also think about ways that you're regulated so that you can then regulate your children. Sometimes, and I always talk about my little SAG, which I need a new one, but it used to work and it was like a drawstring. This was the SAG that regulated me because it was just comfort and a few other things. And so when I get called to a dysregulated kiddo, I would grab my bag because it was just comfort of knowing that I had something to offer the student, first of all. But it also regulated me. And what I learned was when I went to dysregulated students without my bag, I had a harder time regulating than when I had the tool. And it wasn't anything special about the tool. It was just knowing that I had something that I could help them with. So I identified real quickly what I needed to regulate. Same thing I talked about in fifth training. Tags and shirt, all the things. Those are things that regulate us, so then we can help regulate our students. So there's a lot more. Like I told you, this is a very general overview. I'm excited about this opportunity for Caiden's Corner to continue supporting families and our students.